Hello, welcome back to my channel. I've been talking about the coronavirus stats for the past, probably 2 weeks now, and I'm going to do it again tonight. I've just going to go over some of the spreadsheet numbers that I've been keeping track of. And today, there's no other way to put it, but it's bad. There's a couple of, it's definitely getting worse, so I'm glad that people, it seems to be unanimous now that people in either government or the media aren't really playing this down anymore, because it's today's stats are kind of breaking. It's almost like things are tearing away, and I'll just show you a little bit about where that opinion comes from. So let's look at the data. So today we actually had a confirmed cases went over 1 million in total. Now this has been, I have to mention it again because I got to reinforce this over and over, because some people might not have watched, every day that I'm sort of giving this an update, and that's fine. But the confirmed cases isn't really something to get too much meaning from, because it depends on how many tests we have, right? And there could be like 10 million confirmed cases in the world if a lot more people got tested. Now I'm not sure how many people were getting tested. Say if it's 10% of people who became positive as what got tested, then it would be like 100 million maybe if 10 million were positive. But if 10% is still true, and just like if it's the 1 million has been confirmed, then it's as is the case now, then it's going to be 10 million people that have been tested. So I don't know how many people have been tested, but it has increased. The increase is still going up a little bit. It's going down on the delta, on the growth. But, again, you can't really get too much meaning out of this. We're actually seeing high numbers now. There's obviously 1 million confirmed cases, 79,000, almost 80,000 new confirmed cases just today. So, you'd expect this number to drop a little bit, but it's under 10%. It will be still kind of like, I don't know if it would be like more scary if it was over 10%. Again, it doesn't really mean too much. So what means more is the number of deaths and the number of recovered, and how they fit in relation to each other. And that's why I'm keeping track of them in this recovered death rate here. The death rate that WHO likes to use, although it's still going up, and it's actually jumped up by 0.2% today, which it does a lot for the WHO's propaganda, because they've actually been probably more prevalent in trying to play this down than anyone else, actually. They have to take full responsibility for this. And now it's up to 5%. They were often, back in late January, they were just downplaying it and comparing it to the flu and saying it's got a similar death rate to that, or no, sorry, it was a lower death rate than SARS, I think, but saying that it had a death rate of about 1.5 or 1% or 1.5%. Well, now it's gone up to 5%. So this is very real. Even the number that WHO likes to use to downplay everything has still gone up, and it's now at a record high of 5%. The recovered, so this is the number I look at most. This is actually recoveries versus deaths, and look at this here. So within the past 10 days, this has gone up from 14% to 20% consistently. It hasn't really taken a break, an opportunity to sort of take a breather and retract back. It's always been consistently going up. And you can look back at this, like I think in about early March it was actually going backwards a little bit, but since about 8th or 9th of March, then it's been consistently going up since then. Sorry, my spreadsheet just jumped. So today it's at 20%, over 20% for the first time. This is still flat, so incubation death rate, but again, this is comparing the number of confirmed, but just the number of confirmed 14 days ago. So this is still probably more valuable to get an insight look at, because they're past those people that have been confirmed 14 days ago are now past that infection rate. And I'm not sure if the infection, well, I'll show you a little bit later, but this infection, I do know someone that's now on day 20 or 21 of the infection. So the incubation rate, well, it may be 14 days. So I should probably call this infection rate, because that's more accurately what that is. But the incubation rate, which is probably more 14 days, isn't necessarily the same as the infection rate, which is, from what I've seen, over 14 days. That's pretty insane for the flu, for a virus. So yeah, I'm not going to go over the country data, although I do have the US data now. So because there was a bug there yesterday, I'll take a look at that now. But anyone can take a look at this spreadsheet. It's available at coronavirus.doomafood.com, and that URL just redirects you to this Google Docs address here. So okay, this is the US data. So it's actually for a while I thought that because we saw 3 days straight of confirmed increases of 20,000, I thought they capped their test cases, and maybe they have, but I mean, like, they've probably bumped them up a little bit because their tests have now gone up to, we had 30,000 from the US, just 30,000 confirmed cases just from today. So it's a total now of 243,000 confirmed cases overall. Unfortunately, the deaths have jumped up past 1,000 today for the first time ever, almost at 6,000 in total, at 5,926. You could probably get a little bit out of this death growth pattern here, but yeah, I'd still be probably more inclined to look at this rate here anyway, in terms of, because now the recoveries are also going up, so that could be interesting in keep track of, although it really jumped in a couple of times there, like there to there, and actually almost more than doubled. And here to here, it went up just a little bit under 50%, I think. But today, it's only gone up about 600. So the recovered death rate is down a little bit to 39.7% after getting as low as the mid-30s there. The WHO death rate, which has been low because the US has had so many confirmed cases, and this is what the media is getting wrong. The media, because a lot of, I guess, the attention in the White House press conferences and stuff is going to come from US media, and they like to dump on the White House. But the WHO death rate, the deaths, like in relation to the number of confirmed cases, is actually quite low because they have a lot of confirmed cases relative to other countries. So there's quite a few. I probably want to get through to some other countries, but there's quite a few things to look at on Reddit, so I won't go there right now. But yeah, take a look at this if you want. I'll quickly just go through the charts. This doesn't really look too much different to yesterday. As you can see there, that is falling in line. The death increases there is falling in line with the exponential rate. Confirmed increases a little bit off the exponential rate for the reasons I was talking about before. And I've also plotted now these 3 death rates here: the recovered death rate, the WHO death rate, and the recovered... Oh, whoops. This should actually going to do some live editing here. But this should be the incubation death rates. This is the trend is a little bit different. Once again, don't look too hard on the trends of everything. It's just an estimate. But I mean, everything else, every other chart is using an exponential trend pattern at the moment, but this is using the moving average. So that's why it looks a little bit more linear, which you can definitely see here in the WHO death rate. But exponential, I mean, even this is, you can see this, how the incubation death rate is sort of flattening out at the top there, which is what I talked about before. And this is actually, I mean, because I applauded this because it's actually a little bit more obvious once you're looking at this than a spreadsheet. But this is what I actually just mentioned before, in that how in early March we actually saw a decrease in the recovered death rate, and it went down to, well, excuse this really decimal number here, but yeah, it's supposed to be about 5%. So it went down a little bit, and it's about the 8th or 9th of March is when it started creeping up again. So you can kind of see the curve there do a little bit of this kind of pattern. But I can't believe it's at 20%. I actually didn't, once I saw this rate rising again, I didn't actually expect it to get as high as 20%. So I'm a little bit shocked about that. So with that, sip of beer. This is good. This is like 11% today. So first thing that caught my interest is on this coronavirus US subreddit, and somebody, I guess they're from Italy. There's a few advice. I guess it's saying a little bit of advice from the future. A little bit of advice on what the future may hold from an Italian, I guess. And this person is mostly detailing what they've learnt from living in Italy under COVID-19 conditions, but most of it is stuff that we already know. Here are my suggestions. Wear a mask if you need to go out at any time. So, authorities again, put your safety first. Second, asymptomatics are contagious. This is what we've known for a long time now, especially anyone who's been following this since late January as I have. But 3 is actually going to, this is actually a little bit revealing. The number that you're going to be fed with are fake. Not because the institutions want to lie to you, this is just their opinion, mind you, but just because they can't test the right amount of people, because a lot of people die before being tested and so on. Watching numbers day by day is useless and only makes you sadder and more worried. Don't waste your time. As someone who's regularly updating the numbers and is monitoring them, I can attest you for that. Watching the numbers, although I try not to obsessively do it and only check in every few hours or so, watching the numbers does get me down every now and then throughout the day. But I still want to monitor them because, and part of the reason why I keep in this spreadsheet is because I want to, there's probably just like there was a state of disbelief from people, a state of denial when this started to get bad. And I was kind of like, saying to people, anyone who would listen, basically, look, I've checked out the numbers, I'm tracking them. This is kind of bad here. I think there's also going to be a lag when it starts to improve, and people will still think it's bad when it's actually improving. So I want to notice the trends and watch that place where it's actually starting to improve, and then try to tell people there that, look, you don't need to bury yourself in alcohol or something else because it's actually getting better. So yeah. I think that's something to be aware of. Don't obsess about the numbers, but still not to bury your head in the sand either. This caught my attention. I'm not sure if, actually, I don't know how to verify this, but yeah, I saw this on coronavirusvlog. So somebody purposely infecting electronics at Best Buy, but this could be from any time. So we could see what the comments say, but then again, first off, this is Walmart. Yeah. So I don't know. Take from this what you can. So let's watch the whole thing. I'm not sure what's going on here. Oh, it's definitely strange. All right. I saw the headline for that, but I hadn't really checked it out. So excuse me while I just checked out the video in real time. This is on the coronavirus US subreddit again. Ghost Town, New York City from First Avenue at 5:30 p.m. This should normally be peak time traffic. Now, the few times I've been in New York a few times, and my sister-in-law was living, I think, around 3rd Avenue. So, but I know First Avenue is probably, like in my experience, maybe it's not like this all the time, but when I was there, it was the least busy one anyway. But it still was pretty busy around about peak time. So, this will be a little different to probably just looking at like 3rd Avenue or something else. But it's still a little sort of like daunting about how. I mean, it's a nice view. Look how far that goes down. So, yeah, it's pretty empty. But yeah, New York's been hit pretty hard, so it's good to see at least people are actually quarantining themselves pretty well, I think. The next one that caught my attention is on CV News subreddit. So grim new rules for NYC paramedics. Don't bring cardiac arrest to ER for arrival. So you might have seen that Navy ship that came in that docked in New York, and I think I missed whether that was actually for COVID-19 patients or for regular patients that had everything else. And I think it was for the latter. It's going to be for regular. The ship is going to be for regular patients, and the hospital is just going to be all for coronavirus patients. So I'm not sure how this relates to, but this is it links to an NBC article. So don't bring cardiac arrest to ER for revival. It sounds a little bit dark with that headline, but I'm not sure if maybe once you click on the article or get into the reason is because we're not treating them at the hospital anymore, we're treating them on the ship. So I don't know. But yeah, kind of a dark and ominous kind of situation regardless anyway, especially if an ambulance just hasn't gotten the memo and just brings them there by accident. I want to play this video because I watched this earlier, so for some reason this isn't playing, so I'm going to refresh this. But a news report via Sky News of a hospital in Naples, Italy, only treating COVID patients, and the level of PPE required to be able to claim 0 healthcare workers have been infected. So check this out. They claimed that we have 0 healthcare workers infected, not 0 people infected, but these people are basically dressed like astronauts. It's pretty insane. I mean, it's really good they're taking this kind of level of caution, but this is the kind of, look how thick these suits are. This is the kind of protection they need against this thing. It's yeah, we're definitely past that point where it's only the flu. So if I just fast forward this a little bit, I mean, there's still a few patients, there's still a few medical staff, healthcare workers that are just wearing masks. So all their rooms are sectioned off. And so this person, I think one of them was about to pass some tool in or something, because they're behind this door here. Like it's a coronavirus only section of the hospital. Oh, this is the reporter. So this is how he has to dress just to go in. Yeah, okay. So this got my attention on the coronavirus FOSS subreddit. The streets of Beijing were still nearly empty on March 31st. China claiming everyone getting back to work to boost their great economy. Much like the US and much like everywhere else, we're reaching kind of like peak economy, so China was the same. China claiming everyone getting back to work to boost their great economy. Wonder why the streets of Beijing are empty. Picture yesterday from son's girlfriend who just got back to their apartment after being away since the 21st of January. So yeah, streets are still empty in Beijing, for anyone that is curious about it. Now onto a couple of things in Twitter. I actually need to there was one more thing I didn't get to, so I'm actually going to just bring that up first. Sorry. And maybe I could address that first, seeing as... Oh, yeah. So, this, you might have actually seen when I was actually covering... I follow somebody called Kate Gleason. She's the CEO of a company called Eligible. She's been having coronavirus. She actually... I think when I saw this thread, it was like day 15 or something. Because she went MIA for a little bit and then she tweeted a whole bunch of days in a row. But at that point, she hadn't been confirmed to have coronavirus. She was just strongly suspected of it. But there was a bit of a mess up with them. She was told she could get a test, but they'd never followed up with her or something. So now apparently she's gotten tests back, and I've received... Where is it? Okay, sorry, I can't find this now. But anyway, she got the test and she came back positive. So this is confirmed that she's actually, at least she knows what's going on. But the other thing that stood out to me was 21 days and she's still having issues. I mean, with bad colds, most of the time, even the worst of cold, I think they've hung around for 2 weeks at most, but 21 days. So, and I'm not sure how old she is in particular, but definitely at least like no older than early to mid 30s, maybe. Like, so yeah, don't think you're immune if you're if you're young, if you're relatively young. This sort of corresponds to what we've been seeing from other reports, is saying that a lot of people under 40 are getting this. So anyway, I don't want this to go for too long, but this caught my attention because I covered this kind of issue yesterday with Amazon being, real douchebags, as they usually are. I mean, I hate Amazon, just to be clear about that. I just think they're everything wrong in the world. And they're just this mercy. It's like they're this villain from a superhero movie, and they just intentionally do everything evil, like just because they can. It's like they're so they're so exaggerated in it. It's almost like it's a parody. But anyway, this is a memo leaked. So I got this from Sherry. She's someone I follow, and then she was linking to someone called Kate Conger, and links to a Vice article which leaked notes from a memo. Internal meeting of Amazon leadership obtained by Vice News reveal company executives discussed a plan to smear the fired Workhouse employee Christian Smalls, that's Chris Smalls, who I mentioned yesterday or the day before, calling him not smart or articulate as part of a PR strategy to make him the face of the entire union organizing movement. They, quote, said, "He's not smart or articulate, and to the extent the press wants to focus on us versus him, we will be in a much stronger PR position than simply explaining for the umpteenth time how we're trying to protect workers," wrote Amazon General Counsel David Zapolsky in notes from the meeting forwarded widely in the company. So, in summary, they're just trying to smear the guy. Big tech titan versus little guy who got fired for trying to stick up for his health. And, they're just trying to smear him. Just smear his intelligence. Like, I don't know. I can't focus on it too much. Amazon just makes me angry. This I thought was notable. So this is the last thing I'm going to go over. But Paul Graham, if you don't know, if anybody doesn't know him, he was like an internet entrepreneur in the 90s, I think, and then has after the .com boom, he sort of shifted his attention into creating an accelerator called Y Combinator, which funds a lot of small startups. I think about 200 per cohort now. So they're one of the leading accelerators from Silicon Valley. And as you know, sentiment has been growing about the questions about the WHO relationship with the Beijing, with the Chinese government. And I think it's significant that he's a massive figure. He's got 1.1 million followers. And he's actually exposing this. So it's really becoming mainstream, these sentiments now. Beijing succeeded, and he quotes something from the article he's linked to. Beijing succeeded from the start in steering the World Health Organization, which both receives funding from China and is dependent on the regime of the Communist Party on many levels. So, pretty damning stuff. So, thanks for tuning in. Bad day. Let's not decorate it a little bit, but I hope you're not feeling too anxious. And I think at least we're trying. I see people just embracing quarantine a little bit, and if we're going crazy, we're going crazy together. So we're all in this together. That at least is a little bit better. But if you're doing quarantine, keep going at it. The curve flattening will hopefully come soon. All right. So I'll give another update tomorrow, and I'll see you then. Okay? See ya.